I find it disturbing that Georgia fans are all up in arms. And again, this isn't every Georgia fan, of course. All fan bases have their logical fans, their delusional fans, all those things, ignorant and knowledgeable and so forth. But I from what I'm hearing secondhand, but also seeing firsthand, is that Georgia fans are upset that JT Daniels decided to go into the transfer portal, and they directly relate that to Stetson Bennett, his knowledge of Stetson Bennett wanting to come back, and they're mad that Stetson Bennett is coming back because they don't believe that he is good enough. Dare I say this? 12 days after the national championship game to win the national championship, I guess. I don't know why they can't be happy with winning a national championship and actually be happy with him coming back.
Did they not watch the game? Did they not watch when they held the trophy up? Okay, obviously he is good enough because it actually happened. I'm not saying he's, Trevor Lawrence or something.
Exactly.
But,
I posted a video and I gave him. I put him third in line of the factors that contributed to Georgia's championship. And that was just, I didn't sit here and dissect it for 45 minutes, just off the top of my head. Defense number 1, offensive line number 2, Stetson Bennett number 3.
Right. It just goes to show, yes, if you have a superstar quarterback, maybe that tips the scales and you don't have to be elite everywhere else in your team. But if you flip that around and you are elite everywhere else in your team, then you don't need, a hot shot quarterback. That was conclusively proven this year. If Georgia had managed to eke out a field goal win at the last second or something and won it, then maybe I can sort of see an argument. But they didn't. They won very handily in embarrassing fashion in the last 2 minutes of the game, honestly.
Well, I thought it was a very close game.
Bennett was trying to do with that.
But the college football playoff era has shown us that, yes, there's a decided advantage to having an elite quarterback, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, etc., Mac Jones. But Cardell Jones has won the national championship. Jake Coker's won the national championship, and now Stetson Bennett has won the national championship.
And by the way, the Jake Coker one was sort of, you can easily make an argument that was sort of in this RPO age. That wasn't that people excused the Greg McElroy championship because that was back during a time when offenses, the high-powered, specifically the up-tempo offense had not been invented yet. So they just kind of hand-waved that one. Then there's an argument of whether or not just how good or elite A.J. McCarron was. I'm of the opinion that he was a very good quarterback and could start for a lot of teams now, but I think I'm in the minority of that. But Jake Coker went up against a guy like Deshaun Watson, and he won a national title. Stetson Bennett just went up against Bryce Young and won a national title. So I don't really know what Georgia fans have to be upset about, other than the fact that their record is somewhat blemished because they're 1-1 against Alabama. I can see them being upset about that. But
I also think that there's still not a complete trust in Kirby Smart. So if this was going on at Alabama, sure, there would be some semblance of fans somewhere that would be upset and say, this guy's a walk-on 3-star. We don't want him. Let's move on. We were able to do it without, in spite of him. So but I think the reasonable faction of the Alabama fan base, and I think it would be a larger portion of them, would say, we trust Nick Saban. So yeah, this guy's coming back and he's going to have to win the job. And if he's the best quarterback in camp, he's going to win the job. So we should be fine with that. And if he's not the best quarterback, Nick Saban won't select him because he's all about winning championships.
My critique of Kirby is not that he chosen Stetson Bennett. It was the way they went about doing it and made it look shady. Because you and I had a conversation about this a month or so ago about how seeming low key, pretending one of them's injured, so that's why we're starting this guy.
Yeah.
Or how Stetson Bennett was listed as third or fourth string all spring, all summer. And then when JT Daniels does get some sort of oblique injury, they called it, then Stetson Bennett is the next one in line. And wait a second, you said he was the third or fourth string. Why isn't Carson Beck the one next. It was all just weird how it went about. And it was, to me, the thing that rubbed me the wrong way was that I never understood why Kirby Smart didn't just come out, put his hand on Stetson Bennett's shoulder, and claim him that this guy is our starter. He's the guy I think we're going to win a championship with. I don't know why there was all this rumors, speculation. Is JT really injured? Did Stetson just beat him out in practice? Well, that, like, why did it have to be like that? Why didn't he just come out and own the guy? I think he'd be getting a lot more respect, certainly now, because he was right. So that's my critique of Kirby's with the quarterback situation.
Yeah.
But well, anyway, let's move on to
Well, if I could make one quick point, I would just say that I don't trust enough fans' ability to watch and evaluate players, that if we strip the names off the jerseys and we strip the 5-star and 3-star labels off the two and just said, watch these two dudes play, we're going to show you every pass in their collegiate careers, who's better, they would have any idea who they would select between the two. That's number one. And number two, people forget that JT Daniels started the season and put up all of one field goal against Clemson in the opener. That's the one elite defense he got to play this year, or good defense, and they put up a field goal.
Yep. And every time someone wants to bring that up, a typical Georgia guy, even a well-informed one, will just hand wave it off, saying, "No, that was in the beginning of the year. That's about as relevant now as 2017." I'm like, no, it's not. That was this season. That happened. The same guys playing on that team are playing right now.
Yeah,
they may have developed and gotten better since, but it's the same. It's the same team. That did happen.
And this great Georgia defense that's being given all this credit of carrying Stetson Bennett at least has the support of him putting up a reasonable amount of points, whether that's 24, 30, or whatever the number, versus having to basically shut out another team and get a pick six to win a game.
Mm-hmm. I mean, don't get me wrong. I absolutely do think, just like you just said, the key factors that Georgia won the championship, the first one you said was the defense. If Georgia's defense hadn't have shut Alabama down, Alabama would have scored 40-something points. They probably wouldn't have given them that pick six at the end, and they probably would have won. Like, I can honestly just throw away the O-line and the Stetson Bennett factors. If the defense wasn't there, Georgia's losing that game, hands down. So I'm not saying that you can just win a championship with an average quarterback with average everything else. No, you do actually have to have elite everything else to do it with, but that's everything. If you have an elite quarterback, then you can dial it back with your defense or your offensive line if your quarterback's good and mobile. But it's an aggregate of everything that adds up to whether your team is capable of doing it. And obviously, George is capable of doing it with Stetson Bennett.
If you won a national championship for the first time in 40 years for your team, why are they complaining about them? I don't understand how that makes any rational sense. I know that there's going to be people that are more talented. I understand why they complained about him before, but can they be grateful for at least a couple weeks and let him make his own decisions?
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because for me, I mean, usually the most talented or the guys with a lot of stats, yes. Do they have great seasons? Do they win games? Yes, but it doesn't always equate to that. For instance, okay, let's just take for a second. Say Craig Krenzel had another chance to come back for another year after he won the championship. I don't think Craig Krenzel ever threw for 350 yards. I don't think Craig Krenzel ever threw more than 15 touchdowns in a season. I don't think he threw much more than 2,000 yards in a season, but did he win a national championship for his football team for the first time in 34 years or something like that? So I'm just saying, I don't understand where that comes from. Maybe it's a different day and age. We just have so much social media and recruiting rankings and all these things going on. And maybe I was only 13 years old when that happened. But when that happened, I would have never thought for one second if Craig Krenzel could come back, I would say no. Like, he had the it factor. He was tough. He wanted to win games, and it was a miracle type of season. But what does it matter if you have a bunch of talent all around you, just like Krenzel did? You're not the greatest quarterback. We've already kind of established that with these kind of teams. You don't have to have the best quarterback if you got a bunch of talent around you, but if you don't have a bunch of talent around you, you should probably have one of the best quarterbacks. So I don't want to spend time on that. I already did, but I just don't understand how they can't be grateful for that guy and his story and what he's done. So I'd say let him come back. He'd learn from his mistakes. You never know how the season's going to go, but I would imagine he'd learn from his mistakes. You know how much that man, as a young man, has learned this year?
I guess we're going to have to give Stetson his due. I know nobody likes the guy. He looks weird. He's blinking. Georgia fans are even disappointed. But in the chat just now, somebody just said Stetson Bennett's QBR is 86.7 and Bryce Young's is 87.6. So they're separated by 1 point, and that's probably true, really.
Okay,
You
know? My assumption is correct. The QBR ranges from 0 to 100, so 50 is average. So they got that right, that they can make it understandable to people. So that's good. So 71 would be 71. It's a 7 out of 10. It's good. It's not great.
I cannot imagine Stetson Bennett walking on that field as a starter versus Oregon. I believe Georgia's fans, their heads will explode if that happens. There will be a mess to clean up in Georgia. They better fucking start one of those 5 stars, man. I don't know what it is about Stetson, man. He's got his national title ring. He's fulfilled his childhood dream. I think he's going to be the quarterback coach now, on the field kind of guy. I think he's loyal to the university, and I just can't see it. Everybody wants to see a Baker Mayfield out there or Joe Burrow.